You are listening to One Nation Under Crime, a chronological true crime podcast. Each week, we go through our nation's history and discuss one case from each year, starting in 1800. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Leah.
And yeah, we're almost to 20.
Woohoo!
We're almost to 20. It's insane. We're in the year 1817 this year, and it's episode 19. And we are covering this week.
Apparently a case that I'm not going to like, I've been told.
There's a couple of reasons you're not going to like it.
Wah, wah.
So we are going to cover the case of America's first public enemy number one.
Ooh, intriguing.
This is the other reason why you're not going to like it.
Uh-oh.
And I know Leah has some friends who listen, so this is not going to give away, per se, anything about your life, but the people who know you who are listening will also understand why you will not like it.
Oh, no.
His name is Samuel Green.
I have a Samuel in my life who I love and adore.
Yeah, it's bad. So that was the other reason I was saying it's pretty brutal, but yeah, his name is Samuel. And I was like,
but we call him Sam, so we will distinguish.
Yeah. So, and I call this guy Samuel throughout. So,
okay. Well, we will distinguish that it's not my Sam.
Yes. So we've talked about this before, but we're going to go through it again, guys, because we want to give you something and it's completely free to you. We've had 2 people, and if you're out there, guys, send me your information because we've had people that have put in reviews for us.
And they were glowing and very kind.
They were so nice. Leah's, and as y'all should know by now, by episode 19 and an intro, I'm not an emotional person.
I am.
At all. And I got the little notification from our website that said, you have new reviews that have downloaded to the website. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I went to go look at them. And guys, y'all are so sweet. And y'all are so kind. And
Kayla may have squeed. I don't know.
It was just, anyways, it was so nice. And guys, if that was you, send me your information so I can send you a free prize. And those of you who haven't, why haven't you?
Duh.
It takes 2 minutes out of your day, and you're already there. You're already listening to us. So go ahead and give us a 5-star review.
And you know we're awesome.
Right. As we've said, leave us a compliment, a funny joke, or just confess your undying love for us. We take any and all of the above.
I mean, and we know it's true already, so just go ahead and get it out there and get your sticker.
We do. I mean, and you get a free sticker, guys. I'm just saying. They're nice stickers. So, I have a lot of them, but I would want one if I did not have one. So, we would greatly appreciate it if you do leave us a review. Please screenshot it and then send it to either our Instagram, our Twitter, or our email. Our email is probably going to be the best way to do it, which is just onenationundercrime@gmail.com. And, just send me a screenshot of your review and send me your address, and I will swiftly put one in the mail for you so that you can be the proud owner of one as well.
Yes.
So,
and Kayla does all the hard stuff. I just have to sit here and react.
So please go do that for us. And like I said before, guys, the sticker is like dishwasher proof. So if you want to put it on a water bottle, it's fade proof. So if you put it on anything that's like out in sun for a bit, like it's fade proof, I think up to 5 years. I don't know. They're super fancy and you'll love it.
Because we're super fancy, by the way.
Exactly. So you're just a few clicks away because you're already here. So go ahead and go do it and you're done. Send it to me. And guys, honestly, Apple reviews, that's the best way that our podcast gets noticed. So even though like we always tell you recommend us to everyone and always do that, recommend us to everyone you see, but also those reviews help us get more recognized in the chart space. That's what kind of helps boost podcasts is based off of how many ratings they have and how many, 5-star reviews of the podcast there are. So all you're doing is helping us. You're helping a small little startup from Alabama just become a big
great
podcast.
Girls.
I mean, we're pretty great. That's true.
We're both delights.
It is true. So, you know,
We make friends wherever we go. I mean, when we were in Atlanta, I mean, I can think of 3 people offhand that we really, I mean, we were talking, we made friends.
We always
with them.
do. So, God, and that just helps so many things if we get more recognized by more people. So, we would greatly appreciate it. And we love you guys. So, it would be great. Second thing for this episode,
very exciting.
We need to give a huge shout out and a thank you.
Drum roll.
You can do it. I'll allow it. To our new Patreon subscriber. His name is Ryan, which is funny because we both have Ryans in our lives.
We do. And they're both pretty great.
So it's pretty funny. We both know people who are named Ryan, which cross it. Anyways, yeah, we have a new subscriber. His name's Ryan, and he has claimed his spot
in our hearts.
And as our first Iowan Patreon subscriber.
Absolutely.
Iowa.
I mean.
Hi.
Hi.
It's insane how many places we have listeners. We do record these episodes a little bit in advance. So while, as of this recording, Ryan became a Patreon subscriber this week, he sadly won't hear it until, let's see, the next episode. So, sorry, Ryan. We did get it, and we have not forgotten about you. We love you. Yeah, this episode.
Think you're pretty neat.
This episode will come out on the 20th. So yeah, we greatly appreciate Ryan for becoming a Patreon subscriber. And you know, guys, go on there and become a subscriber yourself. There are benefits per each tier. And just like we've said, the more that you can support our show, the more that we can honestly put more into the show and give more back to you.
Yeah. And you can get a drum roll too.
You can. And there's a lot of different things that we can do, you know, and there's some that are listed on there. We have a few different little things like behind the scenes stuff that we can post on there for y'all to have access to. So think about it. Go do it. Just go to patreon.com, search for One Nation Under Crime, and you can be a super amazing person like Ryan. So,
I mean, you already are super amazing
because you're listening.
But you will be acknowledged as
yes,
the super amazing person.
You'll get that acknowledgement that you always wanted.
I mean, sorry, Kayla. I just needed to make sure that the distinction was made.
We
know you're super amazing, but you will get that acknowledgement from us.
Correct.
Okay.
And if validation is what you're searching for in your life, much like myself, then
you will get it.
You will. You will get it. So this week, as we discussed.
Oh yeah, back to the yucky.
It's brutal.
The brutal, not just the yucky.
It's brutal.
Awesome.
This is a medium trigger level warning show. There is, I'm going to go ahead and put here kind of what the overarching themes are of this episode. So you can just kind of be aware. There's significant abuse involved. There's some animal cruelty involved.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I've been very gentle in what I've put in there, but just in case, I'll put little trigger warnings here and there, but with it being sporadic, there isn't going to be a large countdown after I tell you that there's a trigger warning. So if this is an episode that you are listening around the littles, and you don't want them to hear those things, maybe wait till a little later. Because like I said, I'm going to give you trigger warnings just so you know, and I'll probably give you like a couple of seconds after that. But because there are so many, I can't really, pause and wait a super long time. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to trust me, guys, it's okay. I toned down a lot of the things that I read about it. So
she's looking at my face. It's all pinched up.
It's all, I know, she's not happy. So the sources for this week, I used really one main source, which is just amazing. That's Murderpedia.
Say that again.
Murderpedia.
Oh, okay.
Murderpedia.
Murderpedia.
It's an amazing site, guys. And if you're interested at all in any kind of true crime and you're ever looking for anything, a lot of the times Murderpedia is going to have it. Sometimes they don't with these cases just because, like I said, guys, it's 11/11 on September 11th right now.
Oh, look at that.
Anyways, sorry, we were talking before we started recording. We were talking about September 11th. We're not going to discuss it in this episode because
We can't.
We can't. Y'all have heard us discuss it before in separate episodes, and
you know our feelings.
Y'all know our feelings, and I'll go ahead because weirdly enough, because I mentioned that. I mean, we'll go ahead and say, it's the 20th anniversary today. Leah and I both had very different experiences, and we've discussed it in previous episodes of our experiences of that day and of that time. And if you or someone you know and love and is near and dear to you, even if someone you don't love, was one of those that immediately after 9/11 decided to join the armed forces, we appreciate you. If you've had any family members who have been in the military, who have served over in Iraq and Afghanistan, we appreciate you and we appreciate your service. Yes. We're not downplaying that at all.
Or if they're in the military at all, wherever they have been,
wherever they've served, we're big supporters.
Current, former, anything,
and guys, and
first responders.
Correct. And I put this on one of our, I think it was for the USS Apur VA case. I did put it in our show notes, but we've got a lot of international listeners, and while, yes, our U.S. troops are near and dear to our heart, being in any kind of military family is difficult in general. Mm-hmm. And if you are in a different country and, regardless of whether you serve for the U.S. or you serve for your personal country or have family that serves for your personal country, that's still a really big sacrifice. And we're not one of those people that thinks, we're the best at everything and we only care. We are humanitarians. We care about everyone. And we understand the sacrifices that your family has gone through as well, regardless of where you are, where you've been. It's difficult all around. And a lot of people who have served in other countries have come and they've been stationed in the U.S. for a little while, and they've lived here with us. And the U.S. is on good terms with a lot of other countries when it comes to, military alliances and stuff like that. And so,
sometimes they even get married to people from those other countries, much like my father did.
Yeah. So, because
I'm a half-breed. That's what my mother lovingly calls me.
Because he was stationed in Scotland. Was he stationed in Scotland, or did he just port in Scotland?
No, he was stationed in Scotland.
There. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, we appreciate all military families, first responders, all of you. We appreciate it. We just cannot deeply go into thoughts and feelings on 9/11. We both have it's a hard day for both of us. So, and we're both very empathetic people. So we, kind of the positive and negative of that is we can put ourselves in other people's shoes very easily. And we can, weirdly enough, kind of feel the pain of other people. And so days like this are really difficult. I will be staying away from the radio all day. I cannot hear the phone call of, "Hey, Jules, if you know, you know." And that's that. We appreciate you all. We understand it's the 20th anniversary, and this is a big milestone from that day, which is weird to say that it was 20 years ago.
20 years ago since I got married, 20 years ago since I graduated college, 20 years ago. That's a lot of 20 years ago.
Yes.
I'm old, people.
So yeah, we're not trying to completely skip over it and not acknowledge it, because we acknowledge it, but it's a hard. We've both been to New York. We've both seen things that are there, and it's hard. So if you or anyone was affected by that day in any way, our hearts go out to you, and we love you. And we know that this is probably, even though y'all won't hear this for a couple of weeks or so, we know this is a hard day for y'all too. So
even harder.
Yes, even harder than us. Yes. We're in Alabama, so we didn't live, close to it or anything, but anyways, there were a lot of different things that we were aware of. We'll say that.
There you go.
And so that's that. If we're just gonna just really start out at a low note, But I told Leah earlier what was really weird is I said, did you realize that 9/11 is now in history books? And that blew my mind the other day when I heard that, because I guess I didn't think of that. But whatever.
First time she's felt old, guys. I'm used to it by now.
I know. And so, yeah. So our events in 1817, we have, I think we've got a pretty good list of it for this week. So January 2nd, the second bank of the U.S. opened in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where like everything opened. Like it, which I know we talked about in our episode where we talked about Philadelphia, but it's like everything started in Philadelphia.
I want to go to Philly. I've never been there.
I've never been there either.
Road trip. Woohoo.
February 7th, Baltimore, Maryland became the first American city lit by gas street lamps.
Ooh, I have been there.
With the first, I've never, been to, no. Yeah. Lit by gas street lamps, with the first street lamp turned on at, I believe it's Markin and Lemon Streets.
Well, there you go.
Today, the street names are Baltimore and Holiday Streets, if anyone is wondering.
Why they change them?
I don't know. Here at the wall?
Well.
Y'all should, guys, if you're listening to our podcast, you should understand that National Treasure reference.
And if you didn't, we still love you, but we need you to
go watch it now.
More.
Yes. Pause this podcast. Go listen. Go watch it now.
Yes.
So we both absolutely love National Treasure. There should be a third movie. I'm not going to get into it.
Oh gosh, Riley needs to have his day in the sun.
Love Riley. So March 2nd, the first evangelical church building was dedicated in New Berlin, Pennsylvania. March 3rd, the Mississippi Territory is divided into Mississippi and the Alabama Territory.
Oh.
So
that's where the football players went, Alabama.
March 4th, James Monroe was inaugurated as the 5th president of the United States, and the vice president seat is finally filled again with Daniel D. Tompkins as the vice president. Never heard that name before, but whatever. March 8th, the New York Stock Exchange was founded. April 15th, the American Asylum opened, and it is the first permanent U.S. school for the deaf. Today it's called the American School for the Deaf, and it's shortened to ASD.
I wondered if it was, I figured it was something like for, if it was for deaf, or maybe even for deficient in some way, and I don't know the right word to say. Well, like if it was, usually
wait till we get to May 15th.
Oh, okay,
yeah. This was like I said, the first permanent U.S. school for deaf, founded by Reverend Thomas. I believe it's, guys, my last name is really hard to say, and this one's spelled very similar to my last name. I believe it's Gayude.
Ooh.
If I said it wrong, whatever, it's fine. Dr. Mason Cogswell and teacher Lauren, I believe it's Clairn. I don't know, it's French. In West Hartford, Connecticut. May 15th, 1 month later, the first private mental health hospital opened in the U.S. called the, this is where me and Leah should go, the Asylum for the Relief of Persons Deprived of the Use of Their Reason.
Oh, bless.
It's called, and it opened in Philadelphia.
Well, you can go to Philly.
Today it's called Friends Hospital, which is a lot shorter than the Relief of Persons Deprived from the Use of Their Reason.
Bless it. I mean, totally, we could go. I mean, I think we meet the criteria.
I think so. We would have already been there. May 16th, the Mississippi River Steamboat began its service. July 4th, Chief Engineer James Geeds began construction on the Erie Canal in Rome, New York. This is known as one of the greatest engineering works in North America. July 12th, Benjamin Russell coined the phrase the era of good feelings in the Columbian Centennial newspaper, which was later used to describe American politics from 1817 to 1825.
Era of good feelings.
Yes, the era of good feelings. So 1817 to 1825. I guess there were no good feelings before this.
I got a feeling.
So let's see. August 18th.
You're welcome for that.
No, you're going to laugh at this. I believe it's called the Gloucester serpent.
Oh.
But a 60 to 70 foot sea serpent was sighted offshore in Cape Ann, Massachusetts.
Did Nessie come over? Or her cousin?
That's what it looks like. Yeah, like look it up. Like look up I think it's called the Gloucester serpent. But it's in 1818. I'll put a picture of it also in our Instagram. But yeah, they have like drawing, like a depiction of it. But yeah, it was a sea serpent was sighted off the shore. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's Nessie.
It's Nessie's cousin.
So that was pretty interesting. September 9th.
Love it.
September 9th, Alexander Twilight. Interesting name.
The day after my birthday, by the way.
Yes. And just 2 days ago. So yes, Leah has had a birthday. Woohoo!
I'm even older now, guys.
So Alexander Twilight became likely the first African American, and that's how they coined it, was African American, but the first Black person to graduate from a U.S. college with a Bachelor of Arts at Middlebury College.
That's cool.
September 22nd, John Quincy Adams became Secretary of State for the U.S. October 20th, the first Mississippi showboat left Nashville on its maiden voyage.
I have always wanted to go on a
showboat.
Uh-huh.
That'll be interesting.
Another road trip.
Sure.
And then a river boat trip.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Leah's not going on a cruise anytime soon, guys, after the Bermuda Triangle.
No.
So, November 21st, the first Seminole War began. November 25th, the first sword swallower performed in the U.S. in New York City.
That freaks me out. Freaks me out. No, not cool. No, 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 no.
December 10th, Mississippi.
It's my sister's birthday. Okay, sorry.
She's Sagittarius. Okay. Ellie's is the day
Capricorn.
After. Huh?
I thought that would make her a Capricorn.
She's Sagittarius.
Okay. I mean, not that I care, but I care about my sister.
Yeah, because Ellie's is the next day.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Mississippi was admitted as the 20th state of the Union, making the Alabama Territory officially effective because Mississippi became officially a part of the Union. So Alabama Territory, it was then when the Mississippi Territory split, the Alabama Territory became official and Mississippi was a state.
Because Alabama became a state in 1819.
Yes.
One of those weird facts I just have bouncing around in my head.
December 30th, Hawaii plants coffee for the first time.
Oh.
Don't really know how whatever. Our births in 1817 for July 12th, we have Henry David Thoreau. Should be a familiar name to some. He was an author, poet, philosopher, naturalist, environmentalist, surveyor, historian, tax resister, and transcendentalist.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Correct. He was a Cancer. November 3rd, Leonard Jerome was born. He's the grandfather of Winston Churchill.
Interesting.
He's a Scorpio. Deaths in 1817. May 12th, we have William Goforth, who I believe we discussed him before in something. I don't, might have been during our second episode. I'm not sure. But he was the physician who administered the first smallpox vaccines. June 24th, Thomas McKean. He was a lawyer and president of the Continental Congress and a signer of the Declaration of Independence. He died. And September 18th, William Charles Wells was the physician who made the first clear statements regarding natural selection. So from 1870, we don't have an exact date on this because usually, at the beginning, I always give y'all a date of kind of for the case. But from 1817 to 1822, Samuel Green had New England gripped in fear and maliciously earned the title of America's first public enemy.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, and we will see why. We are in Meredith, New Hampshire, is where we started out this week.
It's a lovely name.
It is. It's located, I think it's Belknap.
Interesting.
County, which is only one of 2 counties in New Hampshire that don't border another state. Merrimack County is the other one. But
that's not as lovely.
No, but both counties are the only 2 counties in New Hampshire that do not border another state. Because, New Hampshire's real thin and small. So, yeah, there's only 2 counties that don't touch another state. So, interesting. This is one of them. Meredith was originally known as Palmerstown after Samuel Palmer, who was responsible for surveying most of the land, Leah's going to like this word, around Lake Winnipesaukee.
Ooh, that's kind of fun to say.
No, it's not. If you saw how it's spelled, it's not.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it for me.
The town was granted its charter by Masonian proprietors in 1748. Many of those who helped the town get its charter were actually from Salem, Massachusetts, and it was renamed briefly from Palmerstown to New Salem. So it was New Salem, New Hampshire. In 1768, Governor John Wentworth granted a new charter naming the town Meredith after Sir William Meredith, who was a member of Parliament who opposed taxation on the colonies.
I like him.
Farmers in the area originally grew corn, wheat, rye, and potatoes, but it's most notable for apple orchards.
We like apples.
Yes. It's connected by the Boston Concord and Montreal Railroad, and it was done in March of 1849. And the town became a summer resort area. So Lake Waukewan, another one, was a water power site. And by 1859, Meredith had a sawmill, grist mill, shingle mill, blacksmith shop, harness maker shop, and tannery.
They had about everything.
They did. With the booming economy in Meredith, visitors came from the Alton Bay Depot aboard steamships. The most famous was the original SS Mount Washington. One of the most notable people from Meredith, New Hampshire is Bob Montana, the original illustrator of the Archie comics.
Interesting.
One of the other most notable people is the topic of today's episode.
Wah, wah.
So, if you're from Meredith, sorry about it.
Hey, at least you're known for something.
Yeah.
I mean, my hometown is known for something that we're always proud about. We'll just leave it at that.
We'll just say this.
Keep going.
Yes, it was a trying time. And changes had to be immediately made. It was a thing. But yes, if you would
keep
know.
Moving. Just keep moving.
Samuel Green was born in Meredith, New Hampshire, and we're just going to start out with a bang here because his parents thought he was possessed by a demon.
Oh my gosh, that is horrible. Was he an only child?
I believe so. I couldn't find out, if he had a bunch of siblings or anything. Because
that is so sad.
They thought he was possessed by a demon because, like most other children, even today, he skipped school several times and then he lied about it.
Is that the only reason?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Unfortunately, we are in the early 1800s at this point, and people believed in some wild things. especially those who were described as, quote, poor, simple folk. Green's parents fell into this category, and they thought that quote, the devils,
plural,
the devils, could be beaten out of him with a whip.
Oh, no.
When Green was a teenager, he was an apprentice for a blacksmith. He was caught stealing and then beaten with a horsewhip. In retaliation for the beating, he decided to destroy the blacksmith's garden, but he refused to admit it. He was whipped again. Little trigger warning for some animal cruelty here, so skip forward. Green threw the family dog down the well, and due to there being a dead animal in the well, the water was contaminated. The well had to be cleaned, which was a major expense to the Green family, and what do you know? He was whipped again. Still not learning his lesson from any of the other.
Wait a minute. Who was it? His own dog or the blacksmith?
The family dog. His family dog. The Green family dog.
Oh, now that's just even worse. His own dog?
His own dog.
That's just even worse.
So,
as someone who is just...
Well, this is another one that's...
Look, I'm in the middle of... Y'all know I adopted 2 sweet dogs.
I know. We put it on our Instagram. They're under a post, and yeah, it's...
One of my babies, Leonard, I was on my way to the beach, and I get a phone call from my husband. Mm-hmm. Leonard escaped through a very small hole in our fence that had patched up. An air conditioner repairman came and knocked the board that was blocking the hole. He knocked it out, and Leonard escaped. Y'all, it's been a week, and Leonard has not come home. So I'm sad because my dog is on the lam. I think somebody got themselves a new poodle. They saw him and said, "Oh, a party poodle." Like he's, like
he's
the
black and white,
and he's adorable.
He's cute,
adorable. Like he's not as cute in his picture because they had to shave him because he was in a puppy mill. But y'all, he's adorable. So somebody got themselves a new poodle. I mean, they just did. That's okay.
So yes, Leah's very sensitive about dogs right now.
Well, all the time, but especially because I'm missing my dog. So you gonna put your own dog down a well?
Yep.
Boo on you.
So
continue.
This is also not great.
There's more.
Since he didn't learn his lesson from anything else. Again, trigger warning, guys. He cut the family pig's throat. And then guess what happened?
He got it eaten.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Don't they raise the pigs, though?
It was called, they specifically called it like the family pig, like a family pet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was almost as if it was a game of cat and mouse, but the roles changed each time, and they were just kind of waiting for the other one to give up. But what the Green family did not know is that Samuel wasn't going to just give up. Finally, the Green family caved and sent him to New Hampton, New Hampshire, to live with a family friend named Albert Doone. For a short period of time, Green decided to follow the rules, and he went to school, but that only lasted for a short amount of time, and he became bored, and then he was back to his normal illegal activities. When Doone found out that Green was skipping school, surprise, surprise, he was beaten by Doone. Not long after, Green saw a Jew's harp in a local shop. I tried looking up what this actually is, and it wasn't very clear from what I could see as to how it works. It falls in the category of a lamellophone, which is a member, based on what I found, it's a member of the family of instruments that make sound by a thin vibrating plate, which is fixed at one end and the other end is free. Look up a Hugh Tracy treble.
Yeah, just a mouth harp.
It's not a mouth harp. It's like a thumb piano. Like you hold it in both hands, and then there's a hole in the middle of it there's a metal bar at the top, and then there's little bitty prongs of different lengths that go down, and you use your thumbs to like click it, and it that's how you play on it. Anyways, that was what I could find as a good example. I think it's a kalimba. I think is what a lot of people will call it, is a kalimba with a K. And so that's a good example of what a lamellophone is. A Jew's harp is a single tongue instead of several tongues at different lengths to produce different sounds. Either way, Green saw this and decided it looked pretty cool, or that he could sell it to get some money for himself. But either way, he stole it from the local shop, and once it was found out, he was, quote, flogged. He decided that he wanted to go back home to his parents, but that didn't work out well either. So they found out what happened while he was living with Dune, and it said that they, trigger warning, beat him unconscious.
Oh. They meaning the parents?
The parents.
Oh.
They then sent him back to Dune. Once Green arrived back in New Hampton, Dune took it upon himself to also whip Green for running back to his parents. And this is a pretty bad trigger warning, so just go ahead. And he beat him so badly that a layer of flesh was peeled from his back. Green decided he was going to kill Dune. Green set up a trap that would cause an which it kind of reminds me of the game Mousetrap. Like how you would play
yeah.
there.
I loved that game.
So
now the pieces were really total trash.
Yeah, they were. They should have made that much better. So Green set up a trap that would cause an axe to fall on the man's head as he entered his workshop.
Oh my word.
If this failed, he planned for a pitchfork to slide down on top of him from above a barn door. Dune skirted those attempts and only had minor injuries.
So apparently he wasn't very smart either.
No. And another trigger warning, guys. I told you there's lots here and there. Dune tied Green to the barn door and, quote, he was whipped until his back was a welted, bloody mass of flesh.
Ugh.
After the intense beating by Dune, Green decided once again that he was going to retaliate, and he destroyed a barrel of cider and stole several bushels of corn from Dune. He was whipped again when he was caught. Green decided to burn down Dune's barn, but it was quickly put out. And again, Green was not only whipped, but, quote, beaten senseless.
I don't think whipping works with him.
The two continued for months until Dune finally gave up. And I'm not really sure what caused him to give up, but it's possible that Green was just getting old enough and strong enough that Dune couldn't really fight him off anymore. Personally, I would have given up after the first 2 times that Green decided to kill me, but
I'd have been like, you on your own, kid.
We're going to take a break here and discuss something rather important when it comes to these criminals who are just on a whole other level of evil that we really can't comprehend. There's an age-old debate on nature versus nurture, and which one is more likely to be the stronger factor of the two. For those who aren't really aware, nature is essentially pre-wiring by genetic inheritance and other biological factors. Nurture is the influence of external or environmental factors. A lot of times today, the terms aren't nature versus nurture, but they call it genetics versus environment. A website called psy.org, like site, like psychologist, PHYS org.com, reported a scientific study published by the University of Manchester, which found that nurture indeed had a greater effect than nature. By this point, it seems that Samuel Green has definitely been given the short end of the stick as far as nurturing goes. While he committed his own atrocities, in my personal belief, it is acceptable to feel sorry for the adolescent Samuel Green.
Mm-hmm.
But not the teen adult Samuel Green. As a child, he didn't have much control over the situation he was in. I mean, yes, he could have stayed in class and he could have not skipped school and he could have followed the rules, but he was also a child. Let's not forget that, people. He was a child.
Right. And I'm certain that something started before that. I mean, my background is in education, and I took child psychology.
Yeah, and you might be going in the same direction that I was going.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Okay.
Because we will get on a topic of something. Just hold on a sec. Okay. A parent's job, is to love and nurture their child and not beat them within an inch of their life every time they make a wrong decision. I mean, that's my personal opinion. But I have 2 words for everyone listening. Frontal lobe. Leah knows that I can go on and on about this topic. I'm very passionate about it and I find it fascinating.
It is very fascinating.
But your frontal lobe is where your maturity and development live. Your frontal lobe is involved in memory, language, judgment, motor function, problem solving, spontaneity, impulse control, and social and sexual behaviors.
And it takes a long time to develop. It's not developed when you're 15. No. It's not developed when you're 16. It's not developed when you're 18.
This part of someone's brain isn't fully developed until they are 25. I did look into detail into this. 25 is the age across the board. It doesn't matter how smart you are or how fast others perceive you develop. The golden number is 25. So for people who are child prodigies, who are the children, like I saw the other day, there's this 9-year-old girl that's like in college.
Or the Sheldon Coopers.
Yeah. I mean, regardless of how intelligent you are, you can't speed up development of body parts in general, but you definitely cannot speed up development of the brain. And so the frontal lobe is where all of that information is kind of stored, and which is why some states, while it's controversial, want to raise the juvenile age to 25 because of this whole study on frontal lobe. I mean, I don't know if I 100%, I don't know my opinion on that. I'm just saying that is
because the drinking age is 21 and adult age is 18. And
yes.
So,
yes.
What are we saying?
Which, keep in mind also, you can join the military, but you can't buy a drink. But whatever.
Exactly. What message are we sending?
Exactly. So just keep that in mind, guys. The golden number is 25. So take serial killers, for example. Studies have shown that significant frontal lobe damage can contribute to the personality traits or lack of personality traits in an individual. In a study of 31 serial killers, 20 were shown to have significant frontal lobe damage in early childhood. So, which averages out to 64%. This is a significant number because it does wage into the nurture versus nature conversation. I'll make it abundantly clear here before anyone, I know some people kind of clean or do whatever while they listen to podcasts. I am not saying frontal lobe damage makes a serial killer. I am saying serial killer is 64% more likely to have frontal lobe damage. Like I was talking to my boyfriend the other day about this exact topic, and I said, were you hit on the head when you were younger? Because that's where a lot of it comes in. Like you'll see with some serial killers, like they'll fall off something and they'll hit their head and they'll have a concussion, and that's kind of where and he was like, yeah, I mean, I had, he played football when he was younger and stuff, and he's like, I had a lot of, I've had concussions and I've hit my head on things really hard. And so we had that conversation. So I'm not saying that if you get hit in the head, you're going to become a serial killer. I'm saying if you're a serial killer, it's very likely that you were hit in the head. Those are 2 different things, just to make sure everyone's aware. In the case of Samuel Green, it is hard to ignore the significant amount of abuse he suffered as a child. And you can't you can't assume that abuse had nothing to do with the crimes he committed later.
Correct.
We will never know for certain if he did have frontal lobe damage due to this being over 200 years ago.
Right.
However, based on the facts that we know, it would be impossible to say with complete certainty that he did not. I believe there is a very large possibility that he did, because I've talked about how hard it is to research these cases. I showed Leah something I was having to read earlier, and it was just ridiculous. But think of the amount of stories that I've already said that we've discussed of where he did something and he was beaten. Those are the stories we know about. How many do we not know about?
Right.
Think of how little things were documented back then. What do we not know? And there has to be a lot more to it. So also, frontal lobe damage is not an excuse if you're a serial killer. I'll go ahead and say that too.
No, it's not an excuse.
I'm just saying that these are psychological studies that have shown just different things in development, such as this. So keep that in mind. It is unfortunate, but still, golden number is 25 for frontal lobe development. So do with that what you will.
Well, and that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. I figured you were.
Yeah.
I was like, I think we're going in the same direction with this.
You said his parents said that he, had the devil in him. And, it couldn't have been just from the fact that he skipped school. I'm certain that they had formed that opinion of him before that. And we've heard from the story, it was beatings. And if
it was abuse.
It was abuse. And
it was severe abuse.
And from what we've heard, most likely it wasn't just physical abuse. It was verbal abuse. It was emotional abuse. Being told that you have the devil in you. So if you're told you have the devil in you, well, by golly, I'll show you I've got the devil in me. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're told that enough, again, not excusing his behavior, not saying, well, of course he did this. It's his parents' fault that he did this, because at a point you have to take responsibility for your behavior. Absolutely. But if you grow up hearing and being told you've got the devil in you, you're evil, you're bad. Well, what are you going to do? Well, why am I going to school? I'm nothing, I'm so horrible. I'm worthless. Why do I need to go to school to learn? I'm just saying
there's a lot, and which is why I was saying it is perfectly, in my opinion, perfectly normal to feel sorry for the adolescent, Samuel Green. Now, even though 25 is the golden age, for frontal lobe development, a lot of the crimes that we're going to see happened when he was a teen, and into his early adulthood. And
he could take he needs to take responsibility for his actions.
You can reason. Now, I know that there's a lot of different paths that you can go with this, and I understand there are exceptions to every rule, but you can understand that murder is wrong. And if you can understand that murder
right
is
wrong.
wrong, then yes. So, I do understand in some cases, there have been cases where people just developmentally don't know. Anyways, there's a lot of different things that are
Putting
out there.
a dog down a well is
that's
wrong. Period. Wrong. You don't do that to animals. Give me the dog. If you are going to harm it, just give it to me. I will give it love.
200-year-old dog.
I'll take it.
So after leaving Dune, Green decided that he was going to start a career passing counterfeit notes with a friend he met named William Ash.
Well, at least it wasn't a killing career.
Just wait. They met a traveling salesman named Franklin Loomis. Loomis was their mentor who taught them how to forge banknotes and steal from the homes of the rich, local businesses, and banks. They scammed around the Northampton area for some time until people started to grow suspicious of the amount of money they had for such a young age. So they fixed the problem by just traveling around to different towns. One day, while walking by a schoolhouse, there were children playing outside in the snow. A sled was speeding by loaded with children, and the men threw a large branch under the sleigh, almost killing the children on the sleigh.
That was unkind.
Yeah, the schoolmaster beat both Ash and Green severely. The two waited for the schoolmaster in a remote area until the schoolmaster left for the night.
Okay, wait a minute. They let the schoolmaster beat them? I mean, like, they just waited around and let the schoolmaster...
No, so the schoolmaster saw it and immediately beat them. And then after that happened, the two waited outside.
Yeah, but, I mean, like, it's two grown men and a schoolmaster. Like,
I don't know how many
so
other
confused.
people were around.
Okay, I was just
Yeah,
confused.
I'm not sure on that,
Okay.
but
Continue.
They knocked him unconscious with a rock and then proceeded. Little trigger warning here. They then proceeded to strip him naked in the snow and left him to freeze to death. He was found a few hours later and barely recovered from the attack, but he did live.
Was he able to identify them?
No. Nobody knew who they were. So, Green and Ash traveled through Gulliford and Burlington, Vermont, and Green decided to join the army.
Oh, that's the kind of person we want.
Green
I don't think Uncle Sam wanted him.
No. Green only joined the army at this time because he found out that he could be paid a hefty sum of money for his service. Of course, it wasn't long until he realized that military life wasn't for him.
Because you got to follow orders.
And he went AWOL.
Shocker.
They said AWOL. I'm saying desertion. He wasn't coming back.
No.
He was caught and then thrown into the guardhouse, and he was beaten as punishment for trying to leave. He again escaped and returned back to his family in New Hampshire.
There's a lot of beating in his life.
There really is. At this point, Green had accumulated quite a bit of money and had thousands of dollars in counterfeit bills. He did something very odd at this point. He bought his mom a cow.
I was going to say, was it something kind?
Mm-hmm. This is the only sign of affection of love that he ever showed anyone in his life. And it was when he bought his mother a cow.
Was he calling her a heifer?
Maybe. The rest of the money he had spent on a horse, fancy clothes, meals, and expensive jewelry. The money finally ran out. Green and Ash were back on their usual antics, and on their way to Boston, they started passing counterfeit bills again. Green was employed by a man who wasn't named. This man taught Green how to cheat at cards, duplicate keys, and pick locks.
Was this he who shall not be named?
Possibly. Green was hired out as a servant to a wealthy man. He played his role really well and became really trusted by this employer. And then late one night, he robbed the house of its valuables and fled into the night. Green and Ash became highway robbers, much like the Harp brothers in episode 3.
Nice.
They came across a jewelry salesman in Bath, New Hampshire, who allowed the two to look at the merchandise. The two men then hid and waited for the man to come by later, and they ambushed him. The peddler was knocked from his mule, and then the men took his money. Ash wanted to kill the peddler, but Green hesitated for a second before he slammed the club down onto the man's head and killed him on the spot.
He had a moment of hesitation.
A moment. That little Jiminy Cricket on his shoulder was like, hello. Maybe not. Then he killed that cricket. After this, Green became reckless and he just tore through New England, robbing and murdering anyone that he thought would, should die.
Or just wanted to. Mm-hmm. I mean,
He was put in jail several times during his spree, but there wasn't enough evidence to indict him on any charges.
Oh.
He escaped from the jail several times as well, and it was, of course, with his friend Ash's help. One time when the two men were robbing a jewelry store, Green fought his way through an entire group of officers and shot several of them in the process.
Yikes.
He was arrested for this and placed in jail. He was found guilty after a short trial and sentenced to hang by the neck till death.
Did he grow to be a very large man, or was he just that mean and tough? I mean, I'm just curious.
I think he was just that cold. I think he was just that cold. And, you know, people didn't really assume for people to be that way at this time.
Okay, there's just a lot of things that he's done, and I'm just imagining this Hulk brute of a man, you know, hulking brute of a man for all these things that he's done, you know, fighting off a group of officers and such.
Yeah. Well,
like I'm imagining The Rock or larger, you know.
So one,
I would like to meet him, by the way.
Anyway, seems very kind.
He really does.
His tequila is really good.
I've not had it.
It's Terramana. It's really good. If anybody's looking for a good tequila that you want to spend some money on, Terramana is a really good one. Or Hornitos. Anyways, sponsor us. Especially Terramana. If I could meet The Rock, that'd be great. One of the few tequilas that you can actually drink and it doesn't have that weird like you're not gonna drink it and then like wince after.
You know, I'm not a tequila girl.
I know. You could drink this one,
and
that's what I'm saying.
Okay, because you know that's yeah.
It's
I'm not a big drinker anyway.
It's not. It's a very, very, very smooth tequila.
I'll try it. I mean, and if The Rock wanted to come and you know pour me a shot, I mean, I would try it.
He did a TikTok where it was like the tequila challenge, and what it was is if you take a shot of tequila without making a face afterwards. And you know how like tequila does that, like you're like, ooh. So this tequila doesn't do that, whatever it's made of. So somebody challenged The Rock. He drank an entire bottle. And guys, like, I know that you're like, oh my God, he drank an entire. If you see the amount of food this man eats every day,
on his cheat day. I love when he shows his cheat days.
Not even his cheat day. His normal day of the man eats so much food. Anyways, It soaked it up somehow, but. Anyway, I love him.
I do too.
He's great. There's an officer. Have you seen the post in Alabama that looks exactly like him? And in that post, The Rock said, you know, like, thank you for your service. I bet you have like some really great stories. Maybe we could get a drink sometime. And he said something about Terramana tequila. So anyways, just if you're looking for a good tequila, So Ash broke him out of jail again, and they vanished again. Green became restless and had to go on another crime spree. He burglarized stores in Albany, New York, and then traveled to Middlebury, Vermont.
He had to go on another
Had to. There he robbed and murdered a traveler. This is when his crimes kind of went off the rails, and trigger warning, guys. His crimes then became rape, horse theft, burglary, counterfeiting, and murder. From Montpelier, Vermont to Schenectady, New York, and then from, I believe it's Saco or Saco, Maine. Sorry, I know we have some Maine listeners. To Barr, Vermont. That was kind of his entire, it was the murder triangle, if you will. The Bermuda Triangle. Guess that's what this is, murder triangle. Murder polygon. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't look at him out. So this is what earned him the name of America's first public enemy #1. Huge bounties were offered to capture Green and bring him in, and it's no surprise that half of the country was looking for him.
Okay, so he's public enemy #1, but he's got this buddy. Is his buddy not participating in any of this? He's just kind of his sidekick that comes and gets him out of a jam?
It seems that Green was the main instigator, and Ash was not. And I think based on what I have read and seen, I believe Green was more distinctive than Ash. So I think that could have been too how he was, more the target.
Okay.
So yeah, everybody was looking for him. No real surprise there. He was caught again when he was completely drunk and stole $30 of goods from a local store.
Which is $500 today.
No. He went to Boston State Prison for 4 years. True to Green's form, he tried to escape several times and had to have, quote, special shackles.
Special shackles?
Yes, he got to have special shackles. Would you like to know what special shackles are?
Do they got spikes? do they got? Do they have spikes?
They were weighted clogs, which made his movements slower. And each time, several years were added to his sentence when he tried to escape.
Ooh.
Yeah. He was also in solitary confinement at this time and found out that another prisoner, Billy Williams, had told the guards about his escape attempts. When Green got out of solitary confinement, he was after the man who informed on him.
Oh, no.
He put poison in William's food, but William knew he had a target on his back and he was too scared to eat.
Wait, where'd he get poison? I mean,
it was wild times. It was on November 8th of 1821 when Green cornered Williams in a shop. He was holding an iron bar and, sorry guys, he beat Williams immediately, fracturing his skull. Even though Williams was unconscious, Green continued to beat him. And, yep, trigger warning if you don't want to hear about some injuries, skip forward just a bit because it's a bit cringy. So do that now. Go ahead. Green kept beating him with the bar, eventually breaking all of Williams' ribs, arms, and legs.
Ooh.
It took Williams a week to die of his injuries.
Oh, no.
On April 25th of 1822, Green was hanged for Williams' murder. Before he was hung, the priest asked if Green had any final words. Green said he had no words for the crowd and, quote, "They shall know my fate, for I have written my confession out in full." The priest continued on and asked if Green was going to repent for the sins he committed. In true Green form, he said, quote, "If you wish it."
Oh, my.
The trap door was open under Green's feet. Another trigger, sorry. The rope snapped his neck and he was dead almost immediately. The confession that he stated that he had written was never found. And it is likely because of this that Samuel Green has been widely forgotten in the history of American crime. And that is the story of America's first public enemy number one.
Well, wasn't he a peach?
Isn't he a delight?
Oh, my gosh.
It was as I was reading, I was like, and he's beaten again, and he's, and again, and again, and it, okay, it just keeps going. There is no stopping.
I am certain that his upbringing had
absolutely nothing to do with it, right?
I mean,
insane.
At a point, you do have to take personal responsibility, and
you have to
decide. At a point, you do have to take personal responsibility and decide what you're going to do with, your life.
And yes, and some of y'all who listen to our show might also listen to Morbid. Funny enough, there's an Ash on that show, Ash Kell. She's wonderful. She's beautiful. And she said this several times on the podcast that you have a choice at some point in your life as a child who went through traumatic situations in their life. I mean, I will say a lot of people, and I will never fully tell the story on the podcast, I'm sure, of my life. I'm sure that'll never really come out because it's too long. Or just, different things that I've dealt with at a younger age. And you have a choice at some point of whether you're going to let your childhood define you or if you're going to let it be a part of your story.
It can either define you or refine you.
Yes. You can either choose to let that be the excuse for you to do things as you're older. Or you can let it be the reason that you change the course of your story. And Ash on Morbid, she's discussed that before, and she's discussed several times. She has zero relationship with her mother for several reasons, and while I don't have the same story that she does, my story is very different. And I've had quite a few challenges, we'll say, with just some things that I've gone through. And it would have, I'll put it this way. It would have been very, very easy for me to have gone down a different path.
Oh, yes.
It would have been very easy to make different choices in life.
Well, and my brother-in-law, he has said, he was at his deacon ordination, actually. He talked about he did not have the best example of a father. And he will even tell you, he had an example of what not to do. Loved his dad. His dad has since passed on. Loved his dad, no question, and knew his dad loved him, but didn't have the best example of a dad. And he will tell you, he knew what not to do.
And that is...
He's a great dad.
That is very true for myself as well as it comes to dads. I mean,
and he's a great dad.
Yeah, I'm very much the same way of, if you ask me about my dad, I'll tell you he was a super hard worker and he was one of the best people. He was a guy that honestly would do anything for anybody. He had a lot of personal demons he never dealt with. Yeah. And that led to a lot. And honestly, he just didn't really have the support to help him get out of it.
Yeah.
At the point that he was at. And it was pretty rough. But yeah, I mean, I totally get that. You have those situations in your life where you can say, I didn't have an example of this. I don't know what, I don't want to do the same things. I'm not going to go down the same, because I have, for those, I mean, y'all can kind of guess from like context clues. But my dad was an addict for years, of very, very, very hard drugs. He was an alcoholic at points and stuff like that. Due to this, if you do follow any psychology or anything, addiction can actually be it can be genetic, and it can, that's why I joked in the previous episode of I come from a long line of unfortunate high tolerances, because it's true. I do. I've spoken before about how I have mental health, issues. I hate to say issues because they're not really issues. I live with mental health, disorders. I don't know how to say it. I have, you know what I mean? It's one of those things that's like, I don't know. Anyways, I have diagnosed mental health things. That's what I'll say. And one of the medications that I have to take a much higher dosage than most people.
Talked about that.
And it is because I apparently have a very high tolerance for medication. And when I first started going to my doctor, she was like, hey, just FYI, because I was very honest on my thing. Like, this is the issue that I have. This runs in my family. This is on my dad's side. And a lot of other people on my dad's side have had similar issues. Not so much with drugs, but with alcohol. And, so I was very honest in telling her those things. And she was when I first started seeing her, she was very hesitant on prescribing me certain things that could become addictive. Right. And so she was like, hey, like, I'm going to there's a possibility I might have to drug test you periodically, essentially to make sure I'm taking my medication correctly. And I understand.
Sure.
It's for my safety. It's also for her safety as a doctor. She's actually a very, very good doctor in that sense of not just giving me something and saying, here, go.
Right. She understands the whole you, not just this one little portion of it, which is very important.
And after she saw me for quite a while, she knows me now. Like she knows if I say, yeah, this really isn't working anymore, she can kind of look at it and evaluate and go, okay, yeah, this might be something that you do need a higher dosage on because
let's tweak it a little.
Oh yeah. Trust me, guys, when I go to pick up my prescription at the pharmacy, they look at me like I have lost my mind. And I'm like, no,
No, this is for me to keep my mind. Thank you.
This is accurate. They're like, well, so the way that mine works, I'm not really ashamed of my medications. I take Wellbutrin, which
I'm allergic to Wellbutrin. Yeah. We found that out.
Which is Wellbutrin for me was godsend. But
not for me.
I take Wellbutrin, and I have to take 450 milligrams of Wellbutrin.
That's a bunch.
To do that, I have to take a 300 milligram and a 150 milligram. And everyone, they always look at me like they think that I was on 150 and I got bumped up to 3. They don't understand sometimes that it goes together. And I'm like, no, sorry guys. Like, they go together, and they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, you want to call my doctor, go for it. Like, she'll tell you. But yeah, I mean,
but I'm not leaving here until you give me all my medicine.
Yeah, I can't. That's one that'll give you those zingers if you miss it too many times. And if you've taken any medication for mental health or anything like that, and you've accidentally missed a couple of days or something, you know what I'm talking about, like the little brain zaps that you get. But yes, and so we've discussed that before. I do come from a family of unfortunate high tolerances, and in those experiences, and I'm sure some of our listeners have had, similar experiences in their lives, and you could have very easily chosen a different path for your life. It is easy to, I'll say this, it's easy to follow in footsteps than it is to make your own path.
Absolutely it is.
And if you are somebody who did forge your own path, I'm very proud of you.
Because it's not easy to do.
It's not easy. And it's, depending on where you're from, depending on the background that you have, it might not be so easy for some people to pull themselves out of different situations, or, financials can always be an issue, and different things like that. But it's just keep in mind, it's, like I said, it's always easier to follow in footsteps than to forge your own path. It's always
in
easier.
many ways, not just
in this.
Yes, in many ways.
You do not have to recreate your childhood
for your children.
And you don't.
Absolutely.
You don't. Yeah. You don't have to do that. You can choose to change. You can choose to.
And you don't have to recreate your parents' adulthood for yourself. You can choose differently.
Correct. There's always, and it's never too late to choose a different path. It's never too late to choose something else for yourself. You're never too far gone. I can say that.
You are a pink starburst.
Yes. And so, I know a lot of stories of people who, I was in a support group for a little while of people who did have people in their lives that either they themselves were addicts, or they had people in their family that were addicts. And it was just it was a really good group to be a part of, because, I was in this group with people who did have addiction issues and had been in recovery. There was someone in the group who relapsed a few times and has since. Had the best personality about it, though. He used to tell people he lived in a gated community for a while. Jail. Yeah. So he had a really good personality about it, but and he understood he made his mistakes but yeah, he would always say he lived in an all-inclusive gated community.
Oh, that is awesome.
Which, not wrong. So yeah, guys, just always remember, and in this case especially, I do think that had his childhood.
It's not awesome that he was in jail. No. I love
the humor about it. But yeah, I believe if Samuel Green's childhood was different, his adulthood would have been very different as well.
If he had been told he was a pink starburst.
Before starbursts were a thing.
I mean, the equivalent back then. I don't know. People need to hear that.
You are a perfect hoop and stick.
Well, I mean, like my nephew, I have a nephew, and he just turned 5, but it's gotten to where he'll be sitting with me, and I'll say, hey, guess what? And he'll look at me and say, I love you too. Like he knows that I'm going to say, I love you.
That's funny.
But you can't tell kids, I love you enough.
No, I don't think so either.
You can't tell them how smart they are, how proud of them you are. I mean, and I'm not saying like a false how proud, but you know, he went with us to the beach, and I said, "Do you remember what floor we're on?" Number 4. That's right. You're so clever. Do you remember what room we are? 420. And I said, dude, that's right. I mean, I didn't expect him to remember, but he remembered what room number we were, what floor we were. And I mean, guys, when they remember just little things like that, praise them for little things. I mean, it can be for the smallest thing, but any success. And I'm not saying just inflate their ego like, oh, wow, you can use a spoon, and they're 6 years old. No, not like that. But just, little successes. I mean, they need to know that they do things right. Now, if they do things wrong,
like understanding that you're done with dinner, you need to put your plate up.
Right.
At 6. Like 6-year-olds, a lot of times don't get that. But yeah, you are right. And I make... I'm by all means not a perfect parent at all, but I do make a point to make sure that, because I have a daughter, I make it a point when I compliment her, and this might sound very weird as I say this the first time, but give me a second. I make it a point to not compliment her and say she's beautiful. Yeah. I make it a point to say you're smart, you're intelligent, you're like, I don't want her to grow up and think that her looks are all she is. You are these things too. Like, of course I tell her she's beautiful and I tell her that, but I make it a point more often to say, you are so smart, you're so brave, I'm so proud of you, because that goes a long way.
Complimenting their
your intellect.
Yes, well, complimenting what makes them, not their outside, but their inside. And of course, I tell all of my boys and my girls, only have, of all of my 7 childrens, I don't have any of my own. They're all nieces and nephews. I only have 2 nieces. I have 5 nephews, but I tell them all how handsome and how beautiful they are, of course, because of course they are. But I also tell them how smart they are, how clever they are, how proud I am of them for things that they've done. And I take interest in what they do, because I truly am, because they're amazing humans, and I've known them since birth, and it's just amazing to watch them grow and mature. And oh my gosh, I have one that has graduated high school and is in nursing school now, which just, it's crazy. Stop it. not cool.
It's crazy.
I know, she's amazing. Has the most beautiful brown eyes you will ever see, and it's just precious and sweet, and just was the first one to call me Aunt Leah. So, of course she has a special place in my heart. But it's important to let them know that they are special inside and outside. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, because, I mean, I am Mary Poppins, practically perfect in every way, but I'm not, I'm not Jesus. But I do try to.
Can't all be Julie Andrews, but whatever.
I try. I really do try. But I think it's important, and I think that goes well with this case. It's important to let kids know it's okay not to be perfect. And, we have conversations with kids. And I've had conversations with, especially my sister's boys. I'm closest with them just because we live in the same town. We go to the same church. I've taught them all in Sunday school. I mean, we're just around each other more. And I've had conversations with them about what's okay and what's not okay. And I've had to have real conversations with them. But at the end of those conversations, I remind them there's nothing they can ever do to make me not love them. I might not be happy with them.
Right.
I might not be proud of what they did just then.
Right.
Or of some of the things they do, but I will always love them, and they can always tell me anything, and nothing they can ever say or ever do will make me not love them. And I will always do my best to help them. And I think it's so important that kids know that they have somebody they can come to that will love them no matter what and will help them no matter what.
Exactly. And, there's, like I said, I have a small daughter, and she is
Who is beautiful, by the way.
She's a social butterfly. And so she understandably gets in trouble for being a social butterfly at times where she should be quiet, as I did at her age too. And and she's like, I'm so sorry, and she knows when she messed up, and she understands to an extent, that, but she'll say, I don't want you to be mad, or she'll say stuff like that. And I've told her, the thing that I always tell her is, I say, what's tomorrow? And she goes, a new day. I'm like, that's exactly right. Tomorrow is a new day to make new decisions. You can't change what happened today, but tomorrow is a new day that we can look forward to. And now we know what to do tomorrow.
Very good.
We know what we did today that we shouldn't have done, and we know what to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
And she's like, she's understandably, she still gets in trouble for some things that she does.
Yeah.
But, but there's also, there's that line where, you also have to say, okay, we made a mistake. We had a discussion. How are we going to pick ourselves up and move forward?
Right.
Where do we go from here? Because we can either sit here and we can dwell on the bad, or we can look to see how we can change our behavior.
Right.
So, and again, I am not at all a perfect parent. I have had a lot of therapy. A lot of my responses to my child are sometimes maybe possibly scripted from my therapist. So, but I mean, in saying that too, therapy did teach me a lot of those things of like,
right. They're coping. They're tools.
Tomorrow is another day. Tomorrow is, you can't.
But that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't go back. You can only go forward.
And you got to teach kids that too, that, you can't go back. You can't change what you already did, even though
you got to put your past and your behind.
You got to
What movie?
The Lion King.
Very good.
Of course. Where my child, anyways, my child,
is her mother made over, by the way?
I'm either raising a budding true crime enthusiast or possibly a serial killer.
I mean, at least she's not talking about animals and giblets.
Oh, that's true. She watches a lot of Scooby-Doo, so we're probably veering towards true crime. So that's probably good.
He asked me about that again the other day, by the way.
I did.
Hi.
It's so funny. But and I do, which was funny that you sent me the other day. I watched Scooby-Doo growing up, and you know my theory. I have a theory that kids who watched Scooby-Doo later on in life become people who like true crime. But my daughter loves Scooby-Doo, like loves it. And something Leah sent me the other day, and it was so true, is that Scooby-Doo taught us that monsters can be everyday people.
Yep.
And I think that's a really good lesson for like your kids too, because sometimes the worst monsters are the people that you possibly know, and you got to protect yourself. You got to be aware of your surroundings.
Yep. I saw it and I was like, I got to send that to Kayla. That is right there up her alley.
I love Scooby-Doo. I'll watch them with her. Like, we watch them all the time. We've watched so many Scooby-Doo movies.
And I would have gotten away with it too.
I know, every time. But it's so funny. So I know we've already talked y'all's ears off for long enough at this point, and y'all are like, please shut up. To which sometimes Ellie will go, can I say a bad word? Let's not discuss the bad word that she said the other day, but she said, can I say something bad? And usually most of the time I'll say, well, what is it? We all know, cuss a lot. I don't on the podcast a lot.
But you don't in front of Ellie.
No.
I mean, in front of your daughter.
But they already know her name. But I have my own views on things like that. While yes, words can hurt people, words are also just words. And, I think that if you put too much power into certain words. Sure. So I just if she hears it, I don't immediately go, "Oh, that's about you. Don't say that." I don't say anything.
Sure. You don't make a big deal
No,
about it.
I don't
Absolutely
say anything.
not.
If it comes up later, I'll say something, but I don't say anything.
Absolutely.
And
don't draw attention to it.
Yeah, I just don't draw attention to it. She picked up a new phrase, which I know where she picked it up from. But she said, "Can I say something bad?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess you can." And guys, this isn't really that bad, so just forewarning. But for her, I was like, "Where did you hear that?" But as soon as she said it, I was like, "I know exactly where that." And I said, "Usually, I'll say, well, what do you want to say?" And she'll say, "Can I say stupid, or can I say shut up?" Because I'll tell her, "You don't say that to people. Like, I understand,
it's not kind,
right? It's you." And I say it in a way of, it's okay to say words, but you got to be really careful what words you say to people.
Sure.
And so I try to explain the difference of saying a word and saying something towards someone. Sure. And so, which we've discussed this, the trees, it's a whole ordeal over by my house. There's this whole road that used to be it was like canopied in trees, and it was so nice. She
took me down it the other day.
And they've cut down a lot of them. And so we've passed that road, and Lily will go, "Can I say a bad word?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she'll go, "This is stupid." Like, she'll say stuff like that. So the other day we were in the kitchen, and she said, "Can I say a bad word?" And I didn't know, I thought it was one of those two things. And I said, "Yeah, baby, like, I appreciate you asking." Yeah. And she goes, "What the hell?" And I went, "I'm sorry. What?" And she just started laughing. And I said, "I'm sorry. Where did you hear that?" And then it clicked with me. And I said, "Did you hear it?" And I said, "From here." And she just looked at me, and I said, "Okay, that's where we heard it. Got it." And I just said, "Baby, we just don't, you don't need to say that." And I didn't say anything. I don't say, "Oh, those are bad words. Like, you can't do that." I just always go, "Yeah, we just don't need to say that." And I've explained to her that sometimes there are words that are just adult words.
Sure.
And when you become an adult, you can say them, but you're not an adult right now.
Right.
And I don't tell her like, "Oh, it's bad." Like, I just say, "That's just an adult word that we don't use," and even though I do, I'm like, "Mommy's never said that word." And she'll go, "No, you haven't." I'm like, "Okay." So, when you become an adult, you can decide whether you want to hear those names or not. You can decide whether you want to say those words or not when you become an adult. But right now we can't use those words. It's not words that someone your age should say. And she'll just go, and then she's like, "Kind of like stupid." And I'm like, "Yes." Now, God bless my child if she ever heard me when I'm not around her. But anyway, it's just how I am. It's part of my charm.
So speaking of words, 5-year-old nephew stepped on a nail that wasn't all the way in on my parents' deck. Like, how sometimes, well, it wasn't like the pointy
it's the
side,
top
just the top
of it. Yeah, where it's kind of like worked its way up.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the worst.
And he
if
said,
you're a kid that grew up in the South during the summer, you know what that feels like.
And he said, "Dang it," but he didn't say dang.
And
it was just me and his mom with him. And his mom said, well, his mom and I looked at each other for a second. And she's, we kind of looked, and I said, "What?" And he repeated himself. And she said, "Hey, how about we say,
yeah,
dang it, or
why don't we change, why don't we say this instead?"
He says, "But I prefer." 5 years old, thank you very much. I prefer.
Is he not my child?
I mean,
no, he is his mother's child. I'll say that.
Well, he has teenage brothers.
Yeah, he does.
So, I mean, like, I just turn around because, no, it's not okay for him to use those words. And so he, he gets a talking to about it's not okay to use those words, it's not okay. But I turn around because I prefer, like, he is like a 25-year-old.
I prefer for you to not tell me what to do, ma'am. Let me live my life. Oh gosh, kids are so funny. I will say this too. My child was not allowed to say a specific word for quite a while. we're just going to, the word was fox. So for a very long time, she actually told, she was in 4K or something like that. And she told her teacher, they were learning about animals. And one day I picked her up and the teacher goes, yeah, Ellie said that she's not allowed to talk about foxes. And I was like, really? And she said, yeah, I'm not really sure why, because she had gotten older at that point. And she said, yeah, she just, we were talking about it in class and she said she wasn't allowed to talk about foxes. And I said, oh. And I had to explain why, because when Ellie first learned that word, it did not come out as fox. And so for the longest time, she just thought, oh, well, no, I can't, my family doesn't like foxes. So yeah. Oh gosh, there's things that come out of that kid's mouth. It's so funny. And I had to explain to her, I was like, no, we like foxes. And thankfully she never asked why, but I was like, no, baby, like I said, yeah, there was one point, we couldn't really talk about him. And she didn't really ask why. I just said, we just couldn't talk about him for a bit. And I said, but no, you can talk about foxes. She's like, okay.
Yeah.
She said, I really like foxes. I was like, they're really cute. So yeah.
Yeah.
Good times.
Speech impediments.
Yeah, it was funny.
I have a nephew that had a speech impediment when he was younger. And he said his K's like a T. And I had on my Soft Kitty shirt that had the song. And so I taught him the song.
Soft
before I thought about it. Soft kitty, warm kitty.
That's not what he said.
Ball of fur. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Oh gosh, that was funny. And he sang it and I went, oh no. That's all.
All right. Sorry to talk y'all's ears off this week, guys. Sorry about the long episode.
I'm sure you'll cut half of it.
But I'm sure I'll cut some of it. Because it's quite long. We have a website where you can find any and all ONUC information you are looking for. It's onenationundercrime.com. We are One Nation Under Crime on Facebook and Instagram and at ONUC Pod on Twitter. If you love our podcast, like we've said before, rate and review us with 5 stars. Give us a comment.
How could you not love us?
Send us proof of it. You get a cool sticker. That's all I'm saying. And I got a lot of them to give out. So start sending them in.
She gave one to the lady that we sat by at Hamilton.
I did. I gave one to someone last night. Anyways, we have a Patreon, as we discussed before, like our new friend Ryan. You can also become part of the ONUC Patreon fam, and just go to Patreon and search for One Nation Under Crime. And let's see, I think that's it for this week. Thanks for listening in. We'll see you here, same time,
different crime,
next week. And remember, there isn't always liberty and justice for all. Goodbye.
Bye.